Buongiorno, buonasera, benvenuti amici. Welcome, my friends. My name is Vincenzo, and welcome to my channel. And the channel is Fountain Pen Therapy. Weekly recap for February 1st, 2026. Let me tell you, folks, this year is started with a gangbuster. Or gangbusters. There's more than one. I just have so much stuff to share with you. And again, I have to pace myself, but I think I got an excellent show for you today. OMAS is in the news, so you're going to be seeing some OMAS related sections or segments from this recap. And you know what? We've got other pens coming in as well. I've got lots of paper to talk to you about, more than one, in fact. And I've got some inks to propose as well. We've got to look at what my weapons are going to be for next week. And then we've got look at the market and also take a look at YouTube reviews. So without any further ado, Fountain Pen Therapy presents the weekly recap for February the 1st, 2026. So the first segment is what's new in the market. Well, I think the big news this week anyway is what's happening to OMAS. Okay, so just for those of you who didn't see my special announcement or my breaking news short, on January 28, 2026, and I'm reading, perhaps I can share that with you. I had subscribed to basically to an email listing from OMAS Bologna, because some time ago, OMAS Bologna, the Simone family, had introduced the idea that they were going to, be back in the market. And so we had some ambiguity because we had Mr. Frank Sang of Unibrands Corporation, who was putting out pens, OMAS pens. And then, of course, we had the Simone family, the original family behind OMAS way back when, who were also introducing themselves back into the market. My understanding at that time was that they were dividing things up, they were kind of living with each other. I'm not sure if there was any pending litigation either, but I know that Mr. Zhang and Unibrands were still selling pens. Some people say they were concentrating or they had the rights for the North American market, but there's some ambiguity there. And the Simone family was going to introduce pens in the new market, in the European market. Now, from what I had gathered originally from the Simone newsletters and original announcement, they were really going to focus on luxury, and super luxury offerings. Whereas, as we all know, the OMAS run by Unibrands is offering, various choices, more affordable pens, still expensive, typically Italian pens, but still more affordable. Now, if we look at the announcement, basically we see that Unibrands and the Simone family unite to reform OMAS in Bologna. So they announced that Unibrands and the Simone family are pleased to announce that they will be joining together to create a new company to carry on OMAS name forward. They go into the fact that OMAS has been around for a long time. They also talk about how Unibrands is going to help in the future. We see that the honorary president will be Raffaele Simoni, and I have to assume that the production itself may be with Unibrands. And of course, there's many questions. So originally, in my announcement, I said I think this is good news, and we don't know all the details. First of all, where are the pens going to be manufactured? I understand it'll probably be in Bologna. So wherever they are now in Italy, to the extent that they are in Italy, at least from Unibrand's side, everything's going to be transferred in Italy. Now, I understand that Unibrands and Mr. Zhang were in fact producing their OMAS pens in Italy. There may have been some parts, it is suggested out there, and it's all conjecture and rumor, that there may have been some parts that were done elsewhere, perhaps in China. But most people agree that essentially those pens, and I'm going to feature some of them in my recap this week, were in fact produced in Italy. So I think the manufacturing, everything is going to go back to Bologna. So there's a couple of questions there. Who's going to run the production? What role would the Simoni family play? And what role will Unibrands and Mr. Zhang play? We know that Mr. Zhang Unibrands is behind the Navalor mark, so they've made their mark in the market. And, we've seen in the past Lamy being bought out. We've seen Pelican being also restructured, etc. So prices are going up. So I think it's good news that two potentially competitive entities that making things unclear in the market have kind of joined forces. Now, some people may not like the fact that the two are joined. I think, and I hope, it's going to be beneficial. And here's where I think maybe it's going to be beneficial for all of us. The OMAS Bologna Simoni entity, it was clear that they were going to produce very expensive pens, probably out of reach for most of us. Whereas Unibrands was producing pens, we have 400 pens at 400 euros, 500 euros, 600 euros. So, kind of more affordable, beautiful pens. And I challenge anybody to say that those pens that they're putting out were not, in fact, really beautiful writing instruments. And I'll show you a few in a few minutes. So I am hoping that by the fact that they're joining forces, that this will not make OMAS a completely super exclusive or super luxury brand. There are many Italian brands that have more luxurious pens. Even Leonardo. You can buy Leonardo for 150 euros, or you can buy Leonardo for 1,000 euros. Montegrappa, has very expensive pens and less expensive pens. Delta, for example, you can buy some Nino Marino specialties or limited editions that cost you $1,000 plus, or you can buy, very affordable Delta steel nib pens for, $200, $300, 200, 150 euros. So I am hoping the fact that they're joining forces will make OMAS a company that will produce a range of pens, and that they will join their forces. They all have their strengths and weaknesses, and hopefully putting them all together will give us back the OMAS that we knew, many years ago. So, as an Italian, I'm very proud that OMAS is back, and if they can keep things in Italy, even prouder, as long as they can make it affordable for all of us. Okay? So OMAS is back, and I think that to me is big news. And you'll see that I've kind of have an OMAS influenced recap this week, so stay tuned for that. Now, what else is in the market? Well, let's go back, and it's not because I like OMAS that I'm not going to concentrate on more affordable pens. And when we talk about affordable pens, well, let's look at what's happening in the Chinese market. And maybe they're not affordable as you think. Let's see. Now, first of all, what I've noticed is that I think this is a new player in the market. This company by the name of Balaoi. I don't know how to pronounce it. And I know there is one gatekeeper that keeps writing to me about how I pronounce things. And I'm sure he's going to correct me because I think he's Spanish, French. He speaks all languages. And that viewer knows who he is. I think he's exaggerating, but having said that, I apologize in advance if I'm not pronouncing Balaoi correctly. But when I see here is I've already bought a Balaoi with this flex nib. Let me just show you the flex nib. This one here, okay, this new flex nib. But the pen is made out of wood, and we saw that last week. But now it appears that he's got some resin or acrylic pens with that flex nib at $61. And you can see you can have a flex at fine, medium, or even broad, or even further. So I guess the flex varies. So I think this is an interesting addition. I think the nibs are long knife nibs that flex. So very original. I'm looking forward to the other one I've ordered, and we'll see what that gives. But this company's coming up with other stuff as well. Take a look at this, and not cheap. First of all, I've got a Balaoi hollowed out design, stainless steel. Take a look at that with that skeleton shape or skeleton body. It's a hand pushed. I don't know what that means. Hand pushed, fine, maybe an hand polished. And it's got a $153 price tag, which is, I think, steep. But let's keep going. Balaoi's also got this handmade large lacquer. It's kind of a urushi. It must be urushi. And it's got a 14 karat gold nib, and it comes in different colors. It sure looks like urushi type of lacquer. But look at the price, folks, $800. And then you've got another one, which is handmade lacquer Namiki. Now, I don't know who makes this. And, there's Cumberland hard rubber. So is it Urushi ebonite? Look, it's very difficult to tell. But this one's going for $318 or $376, $318. Now, the nib, I don't know if it's a number 6 nib. It sure looks like a number 6 nib. I don't believe it's a huge nib, but it looks like they're trying to copy Namiki Emperor. But again, $300 and some odd dollars. So I don't know. I hope this is not a new trend. Having said that, let's go back to reality. And reality is these Mahjong nibs. You saw my short that warning you about the new Mahjong nib that appears to be out. And I just noticed that, and I mentioned it in my short, that not only do we have fine, extra fine, which appears to have been that new engraved Sun Expedition nib, but now we see that new Sun Expedition nib may also be available in fine and medium. Now, have they abandoned the old, bouncy Sun nib? I'm not sure. I've written to 365-day stationers, and they sent me asking whether or not these three are all, with the new engraving, thinking that the new engraving means those more stiff nibs and that don't have the bounce of the old nibs. He came back and answered, or somebody came back and answered me that these are all the nibs that go with the 141. So if they go with the 141, maybe they are those stiff nibs. I'm not sure. So if anybody's ordered the new Sun Expedition nibs with the new engravings, but in fine and medium, please let us know whether or not they are the bouncy ones, as similar to the old, or whether they're as stiff as the extra fine. Please let us know. Calling out on Fontaine de Plume, he usually has scoops in that regard. Let me know, sir, whether or not you've ordered them. If not, if I see I don't get a satisfactory answer, I might go ahead and order both the fine and the medium, and then we can do a detailed comparison. Okay, so that's all I've got for the market, because I want to take some time to review other stuff. And if I go too deeply into the market spotlight, I may not have enough time to put in some other stuff that I think you're probably going to enjoy a little more. So that's it for the time being in terms of what's new in the market. So you know what, folks? Stay tuned for what I've got for you in terms of pen haul this week. Very interesting stuff. Be right back. I'm back. I mentioned pen haul, but I'm jumping. I'm so excited about the pen haul that I've forgotten the order of things, right? We've got to introduce some paper, because before we can take the pen haul and write, we need some paper and we need some inks, right? So let's take a look at some paper. Now, again, I'm looking for the ultimate Tomoe River original substitute. A lot of you have suggested notebooks or paper. So far, all of the paper you guys have suggested I have. So I'm ready to take them one at a time and we'll review them. Last week, we looked at the B7 Natural. And what I realized is that there may be a distinction to be made and I want to review this with you before we get into the paper for this week. Let me just cut to my overhead camera. You'll remember last week that we took a look at this paper, which is the what I call the B7 Natural, okay? Except that what I've realized is there is paper called B7 Natural, and there's paper called B7 Bulky Natural. This is the B7 Natural paper. This one that I reviewed last week is, in fact, called the B7 Bulky Natural. They're both 75 GSM, but what I notice is that there may be a difference in terms of how these two, now maybe it's the same thing, and it's just the fact that this one has ruled and this one is kind of blank. I purchased both of them at Danica 58. Again, I will put their website in the description. They're also available on Etsy, if I'm not mistaken. But what I noticed is that the one that is really B7 Natural, without the name Bulky, and maybe one of the viewers will be able to give us more insight, performs much, much better than the one I reviewed last week. And let me show you. Last week, one of the things that I did not like was all of this, the ink was penetrating this bleed through, which was not ideal, and then I did some testing, and I said, maybe it's just the inks. And I come to the conclusion that this paper performs much better with broader nibs than it does with fine nibs. It's almost as if this is fine. This is the extra fine that's kind of gone through. And this one here is the Leonardo fine. It's almost as if that if your nib is so fine, it kind of makes, it penetrates the paper onto the other side. Whereas if you have a broader line, it just, stays on the surface and doesn't, in other words, you're not damaging the paper per se with your nib. So I saw that the bleed through wasn't there for a lot of the thicker, broader nibs. And when I compare it to the other type, which is, so this is B7 Bulky Natural, and this is the real B7 Natural, I don't see any bleed through. So I thought I mentioned that. So if this was not going to be a contender, it now is a contender. Just because I redid the testing and it just writes absolutely beautifully. So that's it. I haven't yet said no to the B7 Natural. Now, if you guys can give me any insight on the difference between B7 Natural and B7 Bulky, be my guest. I would love to hear it, and we can perhaps revisit that during the next recap. So I thought I mentioned that. The next thing I want to mention is that I received this notebook. And, this year I'm fascinated by the Year of the Horse. So far I've bought a couple of Year of the Horse notebooks. I bought some Year of the Horse Colorverse inks, which we will feature. I bought the Year of the Horse Special Edition Mont Blanc inks. So here they are, just to show you. I've got the Colorverse here, and I've got actually the fourth one here because I'm experimenting with it, but I thought I'd show you. And I also got the brand new Year of the Horse Mont Blanc. I'm really looking forward to inking all these, but I think I'm going to do a separate review on that. I also bought a Year of the Horse statuette to do some of my B-roll, so I figured I want to use it. But I do want to mention this notebook, and I'll put the link in the description on AliExpress. It is not quite as nice as, where is it? As my Kimbor, which is, again, Chinese Year of the Horse. The Kimbor really is, and I'm becoming more and more convinced that this is Tomo River Sanson. They call it Boschuan, Chinese Boschuan paper, but I think we're talking about Sanson, okay? So it's not as nice as this Boschuan paper, but it's still it writes really, really nice, I gotta tell you. And we're gonna do some writing on this as well. I'll show you. I'm using this right now to just, when I have ideas, I write down, just because the paper is very thick, but look at that. No bleeding, no ghosting, just beautiful, beautiful papers. So, and not expensive at all. So I thought, and maybe I'm going to feature this in a subsequent recap, or maybe even will be part of my Year of the Horse products or something like that. I'm working on it, but I thought I'd mention, a shout out to this notebook for you, those of you, and it says 2026, but there's really no calendar anywhere. There's just a date and blank that you could put in. So it's really freestyle. It's got a really nice bookmark, if you will. And it writes like last year. I had shown you this one, which also was very nice, which I used, by the way, all year to plan my recaps. And I think we're talking about the same paper. I was very, very pleased with this one. And I'm very pleased to announce that the paper is back. And these are still available, by the way. But this one, if you saw it and you're curious, here you have it. If I have a chance, maybe during this recap, I might do some writing on it just to demonstrate. Okay, so I thought I'd mention that. But let's get back to business, which is, what paper am I going to introduce to you this week? Well, here it is. Again, it's a paper product that I bought from Danica 58. I will put in the description the link. I did some swatching once upon a time just to test the paper. It's what is referred to as Corona Bright View, and it's 52 GSM, folks. So far, all of the papers suggested, and this one was suggested as well, but so far all the papers that I have in mind are a little bit thicker. Some of them are thinner, but this one is 52 GSM, and it's, so as thin as the real Tomo River. And you know what? I'm really, really curious to see how this paper is going to react. As you can see from those two huge swatches, very little penetration, but we will do our own swatching for this week, and I've got some inks to propose. But that's a preliminary view. I'm very thrilled and pleased to see so far how this Corona Bright is performing. So, and as we mentioned last week, we're going to be comparing it to Tomo River Sanson, as we have done. Those were the inks of last week. And this week, we're going to So let's remove that. Oh, we can leave it there, actually. So we'll compare the two. And so far, this one, by the way, is it's 52 GSM? It may not be. Feels like it is a little bit thicker. It doesn't say. But it certainly feels thicker than this one. I don't know if this is 64, and this one is... If I have the answer, I will put it up on the screen. But this one is definitely 52 GSM. So these are the two notebooks and paper that we will be looking at. Now, what have I got in terms of ink? Well, I have ordered a bunch of Van Diemen inks. As you know, Van Diemen's, I've got a special 10% code that you could use to buy Van Diemen's ink. It's one of my favorite inks. I've got almost all of the inks that have come out that they've come up with, even the annual set, one for every month. And recently, Pen Chalet collaboration with Van Diemen's, and I've ordered those inks, and I should be receiving them soon. But in the meantime, I thought I'd take out four inks from the Birds of a Feather collection, and I thought I'd introduce those to you and also feature those this week. So those are going to be that's the paper, that's the ink. We'll be right back. Okay, so we're back. We're all set for the swatching. Of course, the difference between the two, this is an A5 and this, of course, is an A4. So a larger size notebook. But I think Corona Bright, you can find Corona Bright in various sizes, so that's not a problem. Again, I will put the websites in the description where you can purchase this this paper. Okay, so we're all set for the swatching. Let's start with this one. This is Blue Jay Tail. Again, from the Birds of a Feather collection. So, very, very nice ink. I think I'm going to enjoy this blue. Just, isn't that nice? This is kind of a Compeki-ish blue, which is one of my favorite blues. Blue Jay, is it Tail? Yeah, because there's various Blue Jay inks. There's Tail and other, I forget the other descriptions, but there's Crest, there's King, I forget. But this one is particular Blue Jay. Well, I closed it, but I need to write. Okay, so this is Van Diemen's. Blue Jay Tail. So far, this sense, oh, you don't see it all. 1 second, let me just bring it down a little bit. Here we go. So far, this Sanson paper has a lot more texture to it. This appears to be a little more coated. Okay, this one here is Laughing. Oh, now I'm going to pronounce this bad. Kookaburra tail, Laughing Kookaburra tail, and I guess that's another bird. Okay. I smudged it here. Okay, this appears to be kind of a brown, on the brown tint. Very dark brown. Very intense. Very nice. And you know, I always try to give you different colors. Although I got to tell you, blue is kind of, a focus for me. Okay, now I don't want to get this wrong, and I don't want to flip the bottle and spill it. So I'm going to take the box. Again, Van Diemen's. Laughing. Kuka. Burro. And I know some of you will tell me what that is, which is always pleasant and welcomed. And, oh, I forgot the tail, because there may be more than one type of ink that bears that name. So that's the tail version. There we go. Very nice. Wow, that's very intense blue. Very intense. Speaking of intense, the next one is Anna's Hummingbird Face. And you know, Hemingway Jones was kind of looking for an alternative, like a burgundy ink. If he's watching, this might do the trick. Ah, no, not really. It's a little lighter than I had originally thought it would be. At least that's the way it's performing on paper. I thought it would be more like Yamaburo. But sometimes, you know, the swatch is not indicative of how it writes. Let's just see. You could see that this paper has so much coating on it that, so this is Anna's Hummingbird. 2 M's. Face. That it's almost having a hard time penetrating. Whereas when I go here, and let me just ink it again, you see that the paper absorbs the ink much quicker and the line is much thicker, which is a characteristic, Hummingbird Face, of Tomo River, of course. So if this is going to write like some of the French Rhodia or Clairefontaine, we're in the wrong direction. They are wonderful papers. Don't get me wrong, but that's not what I want in a writing experience. I'm looking for something else. Okay, last but not least is this another blue, kind of a tealish ink, I think. It's called Mandarin Duck. I don't know what letter that is. I don't know if it's nape. I guess it is nape. The funny letterings that I can't recognize if it's an N. I don't think it's an R because that would be rape, and I doubt very much that it would be an R, but yeah, very nice. If I was disappointed with that Anna's Hummingbird, I'm certainly not disappointed with this green, or tealish green, I guess. Very, very nice. Now, let's see. I'm going to give it some ink and see. So far, I'm not thrilled. Well, okay. Well, I put too much now because I'm really pressing to get ink on this paper. I think it's nape. So you see the difference when I write? It's so much easier to put ink on this paper, even the Sanson, that has some texture than it is on that Corona. But time will tell. We'll write with just, not with a dip pen, but with a real pen, fountain pen, and see what kind of a writing experience it will give us. So there you have it, folks. We've tested the Corona Bright paper on your left, Tomoe River Sanson on your right, and I'm starting to like what I see from that burgundy. As it dries, it becomes a little more intense, so that's good news. But we shall come back and see what they look like once they're all nice and dry. Be right back. Okay, so we're back. The inks are fairly dry. Sorry about the blotch there, but that was, the little spill. As you can see, the inks on this Corona Bright do really stand out. Not a problem. So it's good with these inks. Very expressive. I find there's a little more sheening with the Sanson, and let's not forget that Sanson is very good. You can see the extra sheening on this teal green. Also on this burgundy, there's a lot more, kind of sheen. I prefer the brown here. I find it's a little more on the gray-black on the Sanson. Here, I think you could see the brown a little bit more, and a little more red sheen on this light blue eye as well. But, other than that, pretty similar. Take a look at this. It performs really well on the other side. You can hardly see the botching, okay? Certainly the writing is even better than Tomoe River, and this is a thicker paper, I think. This is probably 64 GSM, and this Corona is 52 GSM. But certainly no ghosting, certainly no bleed through at all, and no feathering, and compares very well to the Sanson. Again, I repeat, my only hesitation so far is that I find that there's a little too much coating, and one of the reasons why I love Tomoe River is that it makes every line much broader and thicker. I like juicy lines as opposed to precise thin lines. So we shall see how it actually performs with real fountain pens, or ordinary fountain pens. We'll be right back. Get rid of all this, and we'll do some writing with those with the pen haul. Okay, I'm back with the pen haul. What have I got for you this week? Let's start one at a time. Mentioned to you guys that I had ordered this Wingsung 630 flat flaneuls, okay, not the cigar-shaped one. And I decided that I would order it. My God, I just inked all my fingers. Apologize for that. With this the new versions, the Wingsung NIBS, the number 8 NIBS. And this was an extra fine. So what I will do later in the writing sample is compare the extra fine, because now they have extra fine, fine, medium, and broad. And I gotta tell you, folks, I am simply in love with the 630. Be it in this flat top version or in the regular Mont Blanc or cigar shaped version. I think this pen, for the price, is such a beautiful, beautiful writing instrument. And those new nibs are just so juicy and perform so well that I'm just going to keep buying these things. So I'm probably going to get the same one with different colors. And I think I started to prefer the flat top over the cigar shaped. And these flat top can kind of resemble the Sailor King of Pen, because you can buy Sailor King of Pen, that looks like the Pro Gear with the flat, or you can buy the Sailor Group, King of Pen, that is the 1911 with the cigar shape. So just a beautiful writing instrument. So there you have it. That's the first one. We'll put that aside. Second one is I'm not sure I showed you this yet, but I'm going to show it to you again anyway. I don't want to miss it. Is this ADMOC 766. I saw it and I said to myself, you know what? This is a piston filler. And I think it's meant to rival the Asvine V126. And it's meant to rival Pilot Custom 823. And now that the Custom 823 is increased in price, from what I understand, it's going to go up to like 400 as opposed to the 300 range. Well, you know what? We're going to start looking at alternatives. And as I promised, I want to do more comparisons and provide GRAIL pen alternatives. And so to the extent that an 823 is a GRAIL pen, this certainly will enter into the fold now, along with the 699 from Wingsung and along with the Asvine V126 and perhaps others. So we will review this pen in detail. So I will not show you a writing sample, but stay tuned for the detailed review of this. But I thought I'd show it to you. Beautiful resin in my view. And it does come with a Asvine nib, or you can choose the Schmidt nib or even a Bach nib. But as you will see in, anyway, I won't mention it. There's another nib in there right now, but I don't want to spoil it. You'll see it in my detailed review, which is, by the way, is done already. It's just waiting to be published. My apologies. Okay, so that's the second one. The third one I wanted to show you is this, and you probably did see it. For those of you who saw earlier this week my video on the Graf von Faber-Castell Classic Pernambuco. This is a kind of a classic inspiration, as I mentioned in that video. The finial is not quite as, do I have one here? Yes, I have my Pernambuco. It's not quite as pronounced, as you could see, but it is heavily inspired, and maybe this looks more like the Ambition than it does the Classic, but I think it's a very nice pen. And to top it off, it's got that carbon fiber, so very nice black. It's got a beautiful black nib as well, number 5 size nib, similar to the Faber-Castell. So that's the third pen. But I think the pièce de résistance is the following. And let me set it up. I'm going to be right back. Okay, I'm back. Just a kind of a small unboxing. Now, I put the box upside down because if I show you the other side, then you'll know exactly what it is. And I just want to tease you a little bit before we get into it. What I can tell you is that it's a Omas Italy pen that I received some time ago and that I've been waiting to feature on the channel. It is a vintage pen that I bought at the North American pen auction, and I think it's a GRAIL pen. At least it's a GRAIL pen for me. So it's an Omas GRAIL pen from North American pen auction. And, a little note from the guy who runs the auction. Look forward to you being at the February 2026 auction. There you have it. That's the North American pen auction. It's just a postcard from them. Very nice of them. And here it is, Omas. Now, the box is a little used up because it is a vintage pen. It's been around for a while. But at least I'm getting the box. I'm not sure the box is the original box, but I forget now. But here is what's underneath. There it is. It's the Omas 360, folks. The Omas 360 pen, it came along with this little plasticized pen. Is there anything underneath here? I'm not sure I could remove this. Actually, I forget. I opened this some time ago. I don't think there's anything. Oh, yes, there is. There you go. I mean, you could see it's got, the leather is kind of peeling, but it's got the original warranty, the description of the pen in many languages, how to fill it, etc., etc. OMAS 360. So OMAS from the original Via del Fondilore, Bologna, and that's where I think maybe the future operations will come from, if we are to believe what all these announcements are telling us. So the box is kind of chewed up a little bit, but hey, it's vintage. What I really like, of course, is that I finally got my hands on a 360, and the original 360, and not a Majon. There is that 18 karat nib, which is spectacular, with that feed. I'm looking forward to inking this pen and seeing how it writes. It is white. I had to go for it. The price was just too tempting. I do have... You'll remember that OMAS came out with the 360 regular sized and the Magnum. This is an OMAS original, but unfortunately it's not the fountain pen. It's the OMAS original Magnum 360, but the ball pen, ballpoint or rollerball, I forget which. But again, it's OMAS week this week, folks, on Fountain Pen Therapy. So there you have it, two beautiful GRAIL pens in my view. And I'm going to be looking forward to reviewing that pen in greater detail for you. So stay tuned for that. So again, I might use it during the week just to get it going, but I'm not going to write with it for this recap. We're gonna see how it writes when you see my review. There you have it. Maybe not this one. Maybe this one will kind of write with it. Okay, so there you have it, the OMAS. So these are my Penol pens for this week. Isn't that interesting? Eh? Anything from vintage, expensive, to less expensive Chinese, and all of them I think offer great writing experiences. We will be right back with the pencil of the week. Be right back. For the pencil of the week I have for you, and again, these are all pencils I bought some time ago when I went crazy with mechanical pencils, and some of you have already suggested this, and it's the Pentel Carry, I think they refer to it. Yeah, Carry, which apparently has existed since 1971, if I read that correctly. That's correct. There you have it. Wonderful little pencil. Caps really nicely. Wish they had a little pen. I don't know if they have a fountain pen. The Pentel, I doubt it. But there you have it. Some very nice trimming here. This matte tipping. Very nice. We'll look at the details in a second when we do the writing sample. But that's my mechanical pencil of the week, folks. The Pentel Carry. There you have it. So we've introduced a pen and pencil haul, and we know what the inks are, and we also know what the paper is. So what's next, folks? Let's do some writing. Okay, so we're back. Let's do some writing with this new Wing Sung number 8 sized extra fine nib. So this is the really, really nice. It's a nib like this that makes me fonder of extra fine nibs, which is not like me, as you know. It's not a preferred nib size for me, but I got to tell you, these nibs are just absolutely, absolutely great stuff. Now, in that regard, I think we should also take a look at while we're at it, all three, actually four, extra fine, medium, all four sizes while we're at it. So this one here is the Wing Sung. Now, I haven't written with this in a while. Fine, so that's why it's skipping a little bit, but number 8 steel nib. Yeah, it's running out of ink. That's the fine. Then we have the medium. Beautiful nibs. Okay, and we have a broad somewhere in here. Let me just make sure that this is it. Yep, this is it. And this is, talk about I don't even hear the nib at all. Especially on this paper that appears, as I mentioned, appears to have some coating, making it smoother and less textured. There you go. So those are now the 4 nibs that are offered by Wing Sung. Just beautiful. I know a lot of you have asked me, can we, replace one nib, a Mahjong number 8 with a Wing Sung, with an Asvine. Frankly, I don't see the purpose of putting a Wing Sung in an Asvine or Asvine in a Wing Sung. I have both pens, or all 3 pens. I have Mahjongs, I have Asvine, and I have, and they're, in my opinion, they're all kind of equivalent in terms of size and quality. So I don't really see an advantage. It's not as if you're putting a nib that you like in a really special pen. Well, on the other hand, maybe it is. Maybe you've ordered one of those pens in some special resin that you're fond of, but you want a nib from another brand. I guess it's understandable. It's understandable. It's just not a focus of mine because like I said, I own all of them, so it doesn't really make a difference for me. Let's look at the other one. The other one I wanted to show you is, let's see if this still writes. This is the Hongdian and this is the, let me just look at my notes. I keep forgetting the number. 1861. Black. Yeah, and it has that, I don't know if you see it. Yeah, there you go. You see the little tipping there? It's an architect grind. Again, just to show you how our tastes and likes and dislikes change over time. At the very outset, I kept saying that I don't like architect grinds. I couldn't write with them. And now, these are not, There may be a little bit difference. These Japanese architect or Naginata, forget what the exact expression is, nibs may be just slightly different from just an ordinary architect grind, and maybe they write a little bit nicer, but all to say is that I really, really like the way they write. Now, I'm not going to write with the 766 nor with the new OMAS, but I will share with you how this OMAS, now is this a ballpoint? Let me just see. No, oh, this is a roller ball. This is OMAS 360 Magnum. Wow, that is really nice. I haven't written with this in a while, and it's writing like almost like a fountain pen. Very nice. And also, we need to write with our mechanical pencil, right, for the week. So this is the Pentel Carry or Perry? Carry. The lead is a 0.05. I think that does it, folks. Very nice, very nice. But let me tell you, folks, I'm really looking forward to writing with this one. Stay tuned. Stay tuned. Be patient. Stay tuned. Now, what else have I got? I think okay, that's it for the pen haul. So what I propose now is that I've got some pens to revisit. So stay tuned for the next segment. Okay, pens revisited. Now, before we get there, I just wanted to show you how well this paper is performing with pens, with actual pens. Look at this. I mean, I like the writing experience. There's a little bit of see-through, which is, comparable to my Tomo River paper. And I tolerate this. Some people don't. I tolerate just because of the writing experience. And so far, I've got to tell you, it's pleasant. It may not be, the lines are not as thick. I think the ink doesn't come out as thick as it does on Tomo River, but it's very, very nice so far. But let's keep going. I propose to revisit a couple of pens for you, and let me look at my notes. This follows some of the messages I got, the commentaries. So which one do we revisit? Oh, yes. First one, I've been asked questions about this 9019 Jinao with, that flex nib. Let me just close up a little bit here. With that nice flex nib. In other words, I think it's just a Yowo nib that's been kind of polished and with a slit that's going from top to bottom. Apologize for my dirty fingers. I don't like that, and the questions being asked, well, there are two comments. First of all, they're wondering whether or not eyedropping this thing is affecting, because there's some metal there. So far, so good, folks. So I've no qualms. There's no leakage whatsoever. Look at that. Very clean. Now, so this is the Jinhao 9019 with modified ultra flex nib. The other commentary is that this nib is not truly a true, here we go. It's not a true flex because once you push it to flex it, it doesn't quite bounce back, but it just spills more ink, if you know what I mean. So when you flex it, all it does is it gushes ink. Yeah, perhaps. I still think it's fun. I still feel that you get some very interesting line variation. Look at that. And it doesn't railroad that often. So yes, it's a gusher, but it's a lot of fun. So that's one commentary. That's the 9019. The other one is, people have asked me about this pen. This is the Mahjong P137, oh, 136, sorry, Twilight Blue, and it has a Moonman stub. I know some viewers were complaining about their nibs, in particular the fine nib. I don't have any problem with mine. None whatsoever. But mine is a stub. They also complained about the threading there being a little noisy or scratchy. I've opened this and closed it many times, so I guess it's gone. There's a little bit of a grind right there when I lock it, but it's a beautiful pen, folks. I really have no complaints. I really don't. So I love this pen. It's quickly becoming one of my favorite. Next, what else have I got for you? Oh, yeah. One of you asked me, between this Leonardo ebonite, but it's really not with the ebonite. It's more with the, it's a Momento Zero Grande 2.0. But what they're focused on is with this number 8 steel nib, which I think is one of the nicest steel nibs on the market. If I pit this nib against the Yunlai 930, which one do I prefer? Well, let's take a 930. Now, I just want to see which one is the fine. Okay, this one's the fine. So this is the, oh, don't tell me there's no ink. Yunlai 930 with the number 9 steel nib in the fine. Now, in all fairness, I have not written with this, but I don't think it has the same smoothness as the Leonardo. Not the fine. However, this fine from Leonardo does have a tendency to write like a medium. This is the, again, I'm hoping there's ink. Come on, Vince. You know what? I got to ink this. I'll be right back. Okay, so I'm back. I've put in, I didn't wash it out. I put in one of the Van Diemen inks, the Birds of a Feather Mandarin Duck. So this is the Yunlai 930 with a number 9, I should say, steel nib, medium. It's getting closer, but it doesn't have, God, it's very, very similar. I just feel that the Leonardo has a little more bounce. But I think when you're going to compare the number 9 Yunlai 930 nib, I know it's not a good comparison, but I think you got to take out the broad, because the fun part of this nib is this broad. Stiff, yes, or doesn't have the bounce, but the broad makes it a very nice writing experience. So I guess the short answer to the question of the viewer, if you got to choose between the Leonardo number 8 steel nib and the Yunlai steel nibs, I don't have the medium or the broad from Leonardo, and I will eventually, but I think that Leonardo nibs take it. What else have I got for you? Oh, yes. I've resurrected this Wing Sung 629. The reason why I've done it, so this is the Wing Sung 629, and this is a fine nib, and of course it has a number 6 steel. The reason why I mentioned this pen, and I'm not sure I mentioned it so far on the channel, is that I've ordered a 629 with a 14 karat Wing Sung nib. I'm getting closer to ordering the gold nibs for the 630 just because I love that pen. And it's quite expensive, so I'm taking it one step at a time. The 629 14K nib I think is going for roughly 150. The other one is hovering around $280, $300. So I'm hesitating just for the nib. So I'm not there yet, but very nice, that 629. So I'm looking forward to receiving the 14 karat nib, and I will let you guys know how it all works out. Now, do I have anything else for revisiting? Oh, I guess I like to write and revisit the same pen that I reviewed the previous week. So let's just see if it still writes. This is the Graf von Faber-Castell. Oh, wow, what a bouncy nib. With a fine nib. Really, really bouncy. I'm also enjoying this paper, folks. This is quickly becoming one of my finalists. That's that one. And last but not least, I am just going crazy with this pen. This lacquered 18 coats on a Jinhao 9019, call it a Urushi or call it whatever. This is the Jinhao 9019 with 18 coats of lacquer with the Yamabudo. And the heartbeat. In medium. My wife asked me, she had to write a birthday card for a very special member of the family. And she said to me, Vince, do you have a nice fountain pen that writes kind of red with a reddish tint that I could use? And I said, you know what? I've got this one. It's not it's not a real red. It's more a magenta. She says, oh, that's perfect. I like that. She wrote with this pen, and I think I almost fountain pen enabled her. And she's really not a fan of fountain pens, but she said that this is one of the smoothest writing experiences she had. So it was wonderful. And when we presented that birthday card, by the way, the person who received it was really impressed with the color and the writing. My wife really went overboard in terms of she has wonderful writing. It's too bad she doesn't like fountain pens, but it's not too late. It's never too late. So I got a feeling she may want to steal this pen from me, but I'm not going to allow it. So there you have it, folks. Pens Revisited. Isn't that fun? Isn't that fun? So that's it. Let me clean up here and we'll go to the next segment. Be right back. Okay, we're back. So for the next segment is, what are my weapons for next week? Well, what I thought about was, given the news of OMAS, right, and what looks to be a nice comeback, at least I'm hoping. By the way, I forgot to mention one thing. Another possibility, when we try to look at the market and increasing prices, and some people are very pessimistic in terms of where fountain pen market is going. Increased prices in silver. The gold is incredibly expensive now. Companies are being purchased and people are realigning. There's two things that I would like to see happen in the Italian market. And I'm just wishful thinking on my part for all kinds of reasons that I'm not going to get into. But I would love to see the two Delta boys join forces again. In other words, Leonardo and Delta come back and form one unit. That would be a Neapolitan dream for me, I put it this way. I don't think it's ever going to happen, but that would be fantastic. The second one is to see Scribbling, who are a bunch of ex-OMAS people who are doing a fabulous job and who are in Bologna, join forces with the new OMAS. And they become the pen makers, at the front, so to speak. That also would be fabulous. But again, I don't know enough about the personalities and the business deals, etc., to make that statement. It's just, in passing, wishful thinking on my part. So back to my weapons for the week. Weapons for the week. So I figured it's going to be the OMAS week. We might as well, put all the OMAS pens that I can think of, or my favorite anyway, in the pen case, and we'll use them next week. So overhead camera, let's take a look. Here they are. Okay. So I've got actually 4 vintage pens here. One sort of semi-vintage, and the other ones are modern, and then we'll take a look at these in a second. These are 2 OMAS extras that we'll take a look at. A vintage with vintage nibs, very nice. This one is also, this one is a dedication to D-Day. So that's another vintage. This little gem, which is I think probably one of the original Bolognas, and this blue is indicative of that. Kind of a more modern age as compared to these, but this, so I would call that a quasi or semi-vintage, but still vintage, several years ago. And then of course I've got my three modern OMAS coming from the Unibrands section of things. This is another vintage. You just saw it. This is my vintage rollerball, the OMAS 360. And then, of course, I would be amiss if I don't add in, just to spoil things, and some people might say, why did you do that? But I think we should, is to pay homage to this clone, which is the Moonman or Majon V60. And we'll take a look at, when we do our video on the 360, the real one, I think it's inevitable that we have to compare it to some of these Majon pens and see where it stands. But I think that, and of course, when we speak of weapons, I'm going to add this pencil, the Pentel Carry, to the list as well. So here are the weapons. Now let's take a look at how they write. Okay, so we're back with the writing samples. First of all, this vintage. I have to one day do research on, and maybe that 360 video will get me to do it. There's a lot of OMAS extras, and they're all called extras, but I have 2 of them. Some are smaller than others. Difficult to understand, how they differentiated these pens, but This is the OMAS Extra with a, more classic barrel and cap, cigar shaped. This one instead has, that faceted look. So these are two versions. This one's got a flex nib, or a flexi nib, a flexier nib than the other one. But take a look at that nib. So that's one of your original. I'm very tempted to take this nib and put into one of my modern pens, because typically these vintage pens are nice, but they're a little finicky when it comes to their filling systems. So let's do this. So this is the OMAS. I have problems with my O's. I got to work on them. And now we're going to see a bunch of problems here this week. OMAS Extra. Well, you see, right away it gives me problems because the pen is not filled properly. It's as if that drawing of the piston just doesn't ink or doesn't pull up any ink. So they're always very, very finicky. Give me a second. We're just going to make sure this thing writes. Okay, so we're back. Don't know what happened there, but just had to play with the filling system a little bit. So the OMAS Extra, cigar shaped, just to differentiate the two. Beautiful, just beautiful when they write. Let me just get just slightly, yeah, so I can give you a closer look here. Okay. The nib is a 14 karat OMAS nib. The ink I put in here is that Blue Jay tail. So Van Diemen's Blue Jay. And again, it's my fault probably. As you can see, the ink is a little darker than the blue that we see there. Probably because I didn't clean out the pen and probably had some darker ink already in there. So slowly the blue is coming out. But I can tell you, there is such springiness to this nib. In other words, it's a true flex nib. It springs back, so somebody who knows what they're doing can have a lot of fun with this pen. I'm just hoping it doesn't, stall on me like it did during the week. This one's going to be a surprise as well. I have no idea if this one's going to do what it's supposed to. Nice nib, but a little stiffer. So this doesn't have the same springiness as the cigar shape. So this is another, there you go, you see? Gives me problems right away. So I just had to prime it a little bit. OMAS Extra. And this is the faceted one. And again, this is what leads me to say, maybe I'll take those nibs and put them in a modern pen that I know will not dry up on me. The nib, once again, is a 14 karat OMAS nib. Okay. When it writes, it's a beautiful writer. The problem is, will the ink draw properly or is it drying up on me? But to be revisited. So that's the Extra faceted one. This is my OMAS D-Day. So OMAS. Okay, this one's not giving me problems, which is good. Probably because it's a cartridge converter. The nib, again, is a 14 karat OMAS nib. The ink, I don't know the ink in this one, so my apologies. Ink is that Mandarin Van Diemen's Mandarin Duck. Yeah, very nice. Soft nib. I would say to you probably in between these two. The second one, the faceted, pretty stiff. This one's a medium, or even a broad, I forget now. No, a medium. So the line is much thicker. It's just got a little bit of softness to it, but not a flex. And here is my original Bologna, again with a 14 karat chrome colored nib. Really, really nice. I gotta tell you, this pen is, I don't know why it's not in my sights more often. This is the Omas, just a gusher. The nib is a 14 karat. I'm not sure if it's a broad. I think this nib doesn't tell me, but I think it is. It's an Omas nib. And put it this way, it's writing like a broad, that's for sure. The ink is unknown. I don't know what ink I put in this. Oh, no. This is the, yes I do, this is the Van Diemen's Blue Jay that we just reviewed. Yeah, the converter was empty, so I forgot about this one. So it's a perfect match, in my view. It's a gusher, folks. Just an absolute gusher. Softness, because it's a gold nib, but not a flex. Look at that. Isn't that? Noticed that some feathering on this paper with this ink and with this nib. Look at the feathering. See that? Isn't that curious, eh? Let me just see if it feathers on my Sanson while I'm at it, because I'm taking notes to compare why that feathering. This is the Sanson that we used for the so let me just see if it does the same thing here. Folks, look at that. See the feathering? So it's either the nib or that ink. It's not behaving properly. So we can't blame the paper. I'm glad I did this. Let me just see if it does it on the original Sanson. Do I have an original Sanson somewhere? Yes, I do. Not the original Sanson, the original Toma River. Isn't that interesting? I can use this pen as the ultimate test with this ink. Let me just see if it does the same thing on this original. So this is the Omas. And I'm going to put swirl. Let's just let it sink in, and we'll see what happens. Voila, folks. This is why I love this paper. I can't say, I think it speaks for itself. I'm going to keep this pen. It's maybe the ultimate tester for feathering. Anyway, that's interesting, is it not? I think it, on this paper, it's going absolutely crazy, as you can see. I mean, in all fairness, I did put a lot of ink there, a lot of ink. So I've got a feeling it's more the ink, because as it gets, a little more normal, less gushy, there's a little bit less feathering. But still pretty good on the other side, though, I got to tell you. Take a look. Some ghosting there, but hasn't quite penetrated. So, but we've discovered perhaps the ultimate pen to test feathering on paper. Ultimate pen and ink, because it may very well be the ink. Okay, what else have I got for you? Next on the list is this, and all these pens I've reviewed, by the way. This is the modern Unibrand's Frank Zhang Omas, and it's the Ogaiva Espresso Martini. This was a pen that was actually sent to me for review by Omas. So this is the Omas Ogaiva Espresso Martini. It's got a beautiful Omas 14 karat dual color nib, 14 karat fine nib. The ink is probably SBR brown. I can't remember, but from the looks, that's what it looks like. Again, doesn't have that spring as that you see in that initial or that first vintage Omas, but it's a little bit softer than the faceted extra, so very nice. And I don't have the problem of the filling system with this modern pen. Now, let's compare the look to the original. As you can see, there's quite a difference. Yeah, this is a typical Ogaiva shape, I would say. Next, well, speaking of Ogaiva, I've got my Ogaiva I should have put Omas, but this is the Ogaiva Demonstrator, I think they refer to it as. It's got a 14 karat gold fine nib. There you go. And this one is the Omas Bologna calligraphy pen. So this is the, whoop. Okay, here we go. It's a Flex Omas Bologna. It has a regalia crossflex nib. So it's really meant for calligraphy, okay? And for people who know how to use these pens, these nibs. Enormous vibration on the nib, which is very irritating. So if you don't know what you're doing with it, but such a fun pen. So that's the Omas Bologna calligraphy. Well, we saw this. This is the, let me just push this along here. This is the Omas such a comfortable invention. Contrary to a lot of people who hate these triangular, triangular pens. Omas 360 Magnum. There's some feathering here, though. Magnum rollerball. Yeah, and the ink is not going evenly on the paper for some reason. It's kind of, the lines spill. Very, very funny. Is it because the rollerball is not... can you see that? It just... There's some hesitation on the lines. I feel like it's not a constant flow of ink onto the paper, but still very nice and smooth. And as I mentioned, I couldn't resist. I had to throw in my Majon. It'll be my red pen for the week. Majon V60 red. It's got a Moonman stub, number 6 steel. And I quickly came to realize that this shape, this triangular shape on these pens is just absolutely ideal for me. So there you go. Some people hate them and some people love them. That's the way it is. That's it for the pens. Then, of course, we saw my pencil, which is the... just push that up. Pencil will be my Pentel Carry. And what I realized that even capped, you can either push the lead here, or even capped, when you push that mechanism, the lead comes out. So very nice pen, very comfortable, very nice mechanical pencil, I should say. So there you have it. That's it, folks, for my weapons of this week. I think we're going to have a lot of fun with these pens. Some of them may be more problematic than others, as you've seen, but we'll revisit them maybe next week just to let you know how things work out. And this discovery, this one here, is going to be a tester from here on in. I have to keep that in mind. I've got some notes to take in terms of the paper, this Corona paper, how it's performed so far. But I can tell you, despite that feathering with this pen, I think it's going to be a contender for a replacement, ultimate replacement to my Toma River paper. So there you go. Stay tuned for the next segment. Okay, so we're back with the last segment, which is YouTube reviews. What have I got for you? Well, in terms of other YouTube reviewers, I have 3 videos that I'd like to share with you, I think, and that I enjoyed during the week. First of all, there's Apple Boom and Doug from Inquiring Minds that interview Nino Marino, and it brought back some very, very nice memories. At one point, I think probably the best question that was asked of Nino. You have to know Nino, and it's unfortunate his English is not. It's good, but it's not obviously as eloquent as his Italian. Because let me tell you, this man can talk, and I'm going to do a kind of a spoilers alert here. The question was, well, you got Mayora that's dealing with the modern fountain pen and innovation. You've got Nettuno 1911. That's kind of a throwback to the vintage Nettuno. Delta is, again, a reflection of the past. What pens do you prefer? Do you prefer the modern fountain pen, or do you prefer the classic vintage style pen. And Nino Marino responded by saying, it's all of them. And of course, Joost from Appelboom said, come on, don't give us the politically correct, answer. And he said, no, it's truthful. He said, I write with a MoMA, Delta MoMA pen, which is got this futuristic carbon fiber pen that's modern. I write with it all the time. But and then he said, my go-to pen is this little gem. And he takes out this little Dolce Vita, folks. Spoilers alert. Look at this. He takes out this little gem, which is the Dolce Vita Mini, which I can tell you is one of his favorite pens. He carries it with him wherever he goes. And I'm going to show you a video when I interviewed personally, when I visited his factory. He said, Vincent, this is where the Dolce Vita all started. And I finally managed to get a Dolce Vita Mini. So this is a surprise, folks. This is just a sneak preview of another GRAIL pen that I managed to put my hands on. This little thing is just perfect. And he pulls it out and he said, and you know what? And I write with this Dolce Vita undersize all the time. And I've got it. Stay tuned for that one, folks. Anyway, back to YouTube reviews. So anyway, fascinating interview. Second YouTube review, Dafio Stationery reviews a special edition 3-set, I think, of the Pentel Orenz Nero. I've got the Pentel Orenz, but I'm really interested in getting this a 3-pen set or pencil set. I think it's only available in Japan for the time being, but there you have it. So for those of you who are into mechanical pencils, that's something to look at as well. And it's probably going to come into our market soon. And then, of course, there's Une Fontaine de Plume that reviewed the Kaweco AL Sport, but the piston version. Very interesting video. I invite you to take a look at that. I think one day I've got to pull the trigger on that Kaweco piston AL Sport. The AL, of course, is a little bit, it's blue, so it's not the classic black. Very nice pen. I think I'm going to have to take a look at that a little more closely. So there you have it. And in terms of my own reviews, well, we've got the Graph Faber-Castell classic that I published last week. I invite you to take a look at it. I compare that classic GRAIL pen to some imitations, and in terms of fountain pen GRAIL alternatives, it's another video in the series that I will be doing this year. We also had my last week's recap, which are always feature new things, new paper, new inks, etc. Coming soon. Well, I got kind of 4 videos sitting in the background there, maybe, and even more, but these are the ones I'm looking at. There's my notebook setup that I really wanted to publish this week, but given the news of OMAS, I published a couple of shorts. So I said, you know what, I don't want to overfeed the channels or overfeed the lines. So there you have it, but that's probably going to come up next week. We've got my TWSBI Obsidian review. You've got that retractable pen collection review as well, and the review of the ADMOX 766 that I showed you in the panel. So there you have it in terms of what's coming up soon in my channel. But of course, I've got that OMAS 360 to look at. I've got my pretty Dolce Vita Mini that I've got to review. I've got to make a special video for this thing. I mean, this thing is, it's close to my heart. Nino, I got it. And so, lots of things. I've got the inks. I've got year of the horse, kind of a special video for that as well. So, we're rolling. We're rolling, folks. 2026 has come in, and it just keeps on coming in and keeps on coming in. And I hope I've shared that passion with you. I hope you enjoyed the show. Enjoy your pens, inks, and paper. And please subscribe So if you enjoyed this video, subscribe, alert button, commentary, likes, do what you need to do. Let's get those views going and let's get the channel rolling. I want to I want to get to my 10,000 subscribers, and I want to get there really soon. So please support the channel. Take care, folks. Arrivederci.